find the inverse of a value that you enter. Now, if we want to have some control over whatever the user inputs, we need a couple of tests. Yes? If I want to find the inverse cosine of a number, whatever number that I enter as input must be we've been over this. Thank you, Jordan. Between -1 and 1, can it be -1? Can it be +1? Yes. So that is the first test, because if we had some mischievous person and we say enter 0, enter a value, intentionally the person might enter 23, right? So we don't want Jordan entering 23 when he isn't supposed to. But I can take control over what the user does by putting a condition and exiting the code and, putting him in his place and say, can't do. So, get an input. Double is fine. Objective, after you get an input, test if it is greater than or equal to -1 and less than or equal to +1. If condition passes, find inverse cosine. Otherwise, exit. The only time that you are going to find inverse cosine is if the condition is satisfied. Otherwise, you simply have to exit the code. Nothing has to run. Just exit and get out. So, but I do also want this. Print done inverting. Now, that must print when I want that print statement, but that print statement must only happen if the condition passes. If it doesn't pass, I shouldn't be inverting anything because no inversion is done. Okay, give it a quick try. Let's see if we can do this. We can use our standard template here. I'll leave that part. So we are going to get an input test if it is greater than or equal to -1 and less than or equal to 1. If the condition passes, we are going to compute inverse cosine. The result will always be in radians. If it doesn't pass, we aren't printing done inverting, because done inverting only happens if the condition is true. And I also suggested that we don't want to print the done inverting part because if the condition fails and if you have else done inverting, when the condition fails, it is going to give an output done inverting. By all means, the condition failed. Nothing to invert. So how would we go about doing this? I can simply go with declaration. Let's see. Double my input. So as I went around, there were some creative ways. Jordan did and, even though we didn't do the and operator. Jag used and in a different way. We didn't use that either. Dan version 2.0 did if within if. You use the nested if, that's perfectly fine. I will go over nested if. Jag used while statement also. Perfectly fine. There are 1,000 ways to write a program. Each programmer will have their own style. Every time I type a variable initialization, it hurts me to type my underscore input, yet at the same time, I'm used to it. The reason being, my style would involve dot, my dot input. But that's a problem with C++, and it will present severe problems with Python and JavaScript, because anytime you put a dot, it is trying to access a member function from a library. So I only use the dot option with R, which doesn't care. But that's just my style of doing it. And inserting spaces, not my thing. I just put everything very compact. So all good. So use what works for you. I'm going to do this instead. Well, regardless of whatever style, we need to have CMath or math.h, depending on CLine or whatever thing you have. We need an input. So I'm going to move the block from last time. And get rid of those because not applicable for this bit of code, for this activity. So if, how do we test for greater than -1 and less than or equal to 1? Greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. Any thoughts? Not without using the and operator. Think of algebra. I'll give you a hint. If you go to the gym, you can get these, provided you do it properly. Sometimes you just fail. What do we get when we go to the gym and work out? A sprain? Very good, Colin. Abs. See, he understood. He connected with my awful joke. Abs. Abs stands for absolute value. When I test for an absolute value, it is testing for plus or minus, yes? So when we say absolute value of x less than or equal to 1, it is testing for x greater than or equal to -1, and less than or equal to +1, oops, not x, var underscore c. Now, perhaps the definition here looks like it is int. So maybe we have to typecast our input, yes? So to be on the safe side, I am going to typecast. So double static underscore cast double. So whatever abs value it is going to cast to double, the input must be double also. So static underscore cast double. May not be necessary, but I looked at the thing that popped up and it said int so I'm trying to be on the safe side. Input and 1.0 doesn't matter. Since it is a single line, I don't need curly braces. And this value, it is in radians, so let's put a cosine of var underscore input followed by my underscore input, my bad. Let's see. Radians. And we can break lines, like I mentioned last time or the time before. However, if you break the line, what is mandated now? Something is important. There is no way to get around this. I must put something else. If I kept everything in a single line, I could have proceeded directly to the next part. Since I broke, I inserted a new line, so I have two lines. So what should I do? I need set braces, curly braces. What? Okay. I'm about to have a panic attack. We're going over, or more like they are going to. We need braces. Otherwise, you can't put done inverting here, right? If it breaks, it just has to exit. So here, I'm going to do done in. So can I simply leave it as is, or can I get some control in my code and do something else inside? Any thoughts? Can I just leave it as blank, or can I exert a bit more control and put a statement in there to exit properly? You can do an error message, so let's do that. Out of domain. And let's be impolite. Go back to algebra. Good? That'll work, but I want to exit out. What is a good way to exit out? Eventually there is an exit function, we'll get there. But how about this? If I returned at this moment by putting whatever value to 216, doesn't matter, I will exit properly. Yes, I'm returning out of the main function. So the outer return will be upon successful execution. Inner return would be after unsuccessful execution. Let's see if this works. If it doesn't, we can figure it out. What's going on here? I guess expected parentheses. Am I missing? Aha. right there. Parentheses again. It's not var underscore input, my underscore input. Oh, thank you, Jordan. That has to be my input. What else is it giving us now? Expected parentheses. So let's put that within parentheses. Let's see what happens. We'll put that within parentheses. There's a space in CN. Ah. Okay, that's my next error. Static cast, primary expression, let's see.
There's a floating point, absolute.
Come again? There. Extra
Absolute
parentheses.
value.
We'll try this one more time. There it goes. So, few things about static cast. When I did it with the single expression, I didn't put parentheses. But parentheses are important when you have a huge expression. To avoid all of that, you can simply put it outside, do the casting outside of the if condition, to avoid confusion here. Now, I didn't have a panic attack, with every error. I kind of freaked, a mini freak, extremely mini freak, and then said, oh, read that error, fix it. So that's my thought process. So anytime you get an error, don't freak out. Just read what the error states. I'm going to enter a number to inlet, 0.65. The value of inverse cosine of the input, radians. If I run it again and I put 16, out of domain, go back to algebra. Good?